Hello friends, it's Kayla. Welcome back to my channel. This is season 2 of Third Time's a Charm. This season we are going to have 3 episodes where I read 3 authors for the 3rd time each. You can watch all of these videos completely independently. You don't have to be caught up on the series at all to watch, but I'll recap you really quickly. In the first season, there were 3 different videos, and the goal was to read authors for the 3rd time that I had disliked twice previously. The first season was all about, I keep picking up the same authors just because I recognize them, I'm intrigued by their stuff, but I never enjoy them. So this last attempt was, should I continue with them or should I cut them off? So many books, so little time, right? I shouldn't continue to pick up an author if I'm not enjoying them. And that whole series was really fun, and I think I ended up in the end with a split of 5 and 4 of authors that I'm going to read more from and authors that I'm not. Now, thankfully for my reading life, I can't actually think of that many more authors that I continuously give only low ratings to. So season 2 is all about reading authors for a 3rd time that I've loved one book and really disliked one book. And this Third Time a Charm concept is more so just an excuse to read from authors that I think I like, but there's a potential that I won't. Just like last season, each video is going to be themed. So we have a thriller mystery episode, a speculative episode, and a general fiction episode. And I decided to start with thrillers. So the thing about my whole thriller shelf is there are authors that I've read a ton of books from, and I hate some and love some. You know, from Stephen King to Riley Sager to Mary Kubica, Mindy McGinnis, Ruth Ware. This is just my experience with mystery and thriller books. It's not about the author. It's about like the plot. And there's a ton of authors that I've both loved and hated that have other books that I could pick up. But I really wanted to focus on reading for the 3rd time. Although one of them is going to be a cheat. I'm sorry. But based on my comment section, if I don't give Lisa Jewell one last try, you all might just disown me. So let's talk about what I've read from Lisa Jewell before. First, we have to find what I've read from Lisa Jewell before. Got 1, 2, and 3. The thing about Lisa Jewell is her most popular books I have hated, and her most unpopular book is the one that I liked. I really enjoyed Watching You. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then She Was Gone and The Family Upstairs, I gave 1 or 2 stars to both of these. And I don't think there's a single other author that I have had more people try to convince me to pick up one more book from, and I don't think I've had a thriller recommended to me more in the past year than The Night She Disappeared. So I know this one is technically cheating, but the alternative to this was there are no more authors that I am reading a 3rd book from that I've genuinely hated and loved. I can think of some more that I've given 3 and 4 stars to, but Lisa Jewell is the one that inspired such dislike for me that I feel like if I put up a poll asking if I should follow the rules, but it wouldn't be as dramatic of results, or cheating a little bit but giving this moment of retribution to myself or Lisa Jewell, I know that you'd vote for this anyway. This does have one of my favorite covers, set underwater. Well, it's probably not set underwater. The cover is set underwater. And it says it's about a couple who head out for the first time since their son was born, and then both of them do not make it home. We're following the parents of a missing couple, and then a writer moves into a cottage at the edge of the woods and I think stumbles upon something that brings the case back to life. Next up, I have Kimberly McCreight, and this one absolutely follows the rules. And A Good Marriage has also been relentlessly recommended to me. So I bought it without really knowing what it's about. So for Kimberly McCreight, I read and absolutely adored Where They Found Her. I've recommended it to so many people, but this was so long ago when it was pretty early in my thriller life as an adult that I truly don't know if this would hold up. And especially because the thing that I read after this, The Outliers, I kind of hated. I think at the time I also wasn't super comfortable giving really low ratings. So I don't know if my Goodreads would say this is a 2 or a 3, but in my mind, this is more of a 1 or a 2. With that said, The Outliers kind of mixes genres a little bit, and I think you would call it YA. So it could just be a case of different age ranges. But I've never read anything else from her because I'm nervous. So we have A Good Marriage here. We're following a woman who works at a law firm. She has a devoted husband, and then suddenly everything falls apart. Then she gets a call from an acquaintance and who's currently an inmate at a correctional facility and is being accused of killing his wife. And I guess she has to uncover the mystery of like what was happening in their marriage. And then lastly, I'm really excited to read the new Lexi Elliott. I was kindly sent an early copy of The French Girl and I gave it like 2.5 stars, but I was impressed with her writing enough to keep her on my radar. And so I added her upcoming book, The Missing Years, on my TBR, and then I got another arc so kindly sent to me, and this one is a good one and I've been recommending it just endlessly since. I think I technically gave it 4.5 stars. And my thoughts on Lexi Elliott is her stories aren't super innovative. Like her concepts I've read before, they've been done before, but there's something about her writing that really works for me, and she's got kind of combinations of twists at the end of all of her books that I appreciate. So I decided to purchase her newest release, How to Kill Your Best Friend. This is about a group of friends. One of the friends supposedly drowned, and a little while later the other two friends are going to visit like the resort island that her and her husband owned, and obviously they're going to find out the truth from there of what really happened to their friend. The title's just very ominous and I don't know what to expect. So these are the 3 things that I'm really excited to read this week. I'm definitely in the mood for some good domestic thrillers, and since I've really enjoyed a book from each of these authors before, this isn't really like the first season was, a definitive decision at the end of like I'm never going to pick up this author again, but it's just a fun way to build a little TBR and see like if the book I hated from all of these authors, if that one was a fluke or if the one that I loved was a fluke. So let's kick it off with the longest one. Between leaving the house and coming back to the house, I have gotten sick. I sound bad. I feel bad. My face is turning pink. But I read the first 15, or listened to the first 15% of this. Liam was in a like wilderness survival camp today, and it's a far drive and then a far way to pick him up, but I got a lot of work done while he was away. And it's really weird because there's a couple perspectives in this book, and one of them is a woman who's been married for the exact same amount of years as I have. Her son's the exact same age as Liam, and the book kicks off with him also away at camp, and then she gets brutally murdered, perhaps by her husband, and I'm scared. There's supposedly 3 different narrators for this book. 2 are women, 1's a man, and right now all I've read is him like reading some like articles and stuff. Like there isn't a character for the male narrator yet. And I'm really interested to see if we're gonna get a male perspective and which one it's gonna be, because there are 3 main kind of characters. One is the man who's being accused of murdering his wife. One is the husband of the woman who's going to be that man's attorney. And then there's another couple who seem a little bit iffy, and that husband seems like a little too perfect. I don't think that's too many spoilers to give you at 15% in, because obviously I don't know the truth. But there's also like testimonies I just saw that we're going to get to see, and I really like trial-based books, so it's going well. My health isn't going well, but my book is. Good morning. I took some cold medicine last night. I'm just making breakfast, and I just fell asleep for 10.5 hours, and now I'm absolutely starving. It's safe to say I'm not going anywhere today, so I have tons of time to read my book. I'll probably actually start the next book as well. I'm about 2/3 of the way through. I'm almost exclusively listening to the audiobook because it's so good, and I put a little tab where I think I predicted the ending, and I'm excited to know if I'm right. It's definitely a dark thriller. Not quite like Karen Slaughter territory, but in that direction. It makes sense why Gabby really likes this. I think that's the only person I know who's read it. And for some reason, I thought this was a woman's hair. I always thought this was a cover. I never looked at it that closely. I was always like, oh, her hair looks just like mine. No, that's a man over her shoulder. Like, duh, am I okay? Okay, I finished, wow. Oh my god. I finished A Good Marriage and it was really good. I'm giving it 4 stars, and even though I could, and I did predict that thing, and I'm actually going to edit out a little portion of how I introduced this book because there was a character I was initially suspicious of, and I didn't think that I was saying anything that would spoil anything, but I did by accident. Oh god, how do I get the camera further away from my awful sick face? This is as far as my arm can reach. But the thing about Kimberly McCreight is that she can pull off like multiple different twists, and not even twists, but just like there are always different things to learn, and she's always going to lead you down a couple different paths. So something that I hate in a thriller is when there are no red herrings and it's just like a really straightforward mystery where we slowly get to closer and closer and we get clues and clues, and then we find out the truth about something. I want to be misled. I want to be lied to. Like, I want to be in the head of a character who is formulating different ideas, even if they're not going to pan out to be anything. So the one big mystery is like, who killed this woman? But there's also stuff going on between a couple different marriages, and there's also like the pasts of people from years and years ago that we slowly get to understand their dynamic too, and why everyone is like in this current circumstances that they're in. There are a couple characters like you are led to think are sketchy and then don't turn out to be characters that you think there's nothing that they could be responsible for, and then there's like not even the big reveal, but there's something going on with them on the sidelines. And it was a fun read. I think now it is likely that you will see a Kimberly McCreight as a Literally Dead book club pick, which is my mystery thriller horror book club. We read 10 books a year, pretty much one a month. If you're new here, just not January and December. So I would totally recommend, if you have never read Kimberly McCreight, go read Where They Found Her and read A Good Marriage, so you're kind of caught up with some of her previous stuff that is well liked, and then you can decide if when she comes up with something in like 2023 and there's the potential for me to have her as a book club selection, you already know like if you enjoy her writing or not. This one I would totally recommend. I feel like most people could enjoy this. It's got the simplicity of a domestic thriller, if that's something that you're into, but there's lots of little sidelines, but it never gets confusing because you pretty much just have two main characters. And there are some interesting things interspliced, like court records, and there are these emails being sent out because someone at the school, this is also a pretty early in the book thing, but someone in the school has like hacked into, the things that these characters have in common is they have kids who go to the same school, and somebody hacked into the school like database, and people think that they are like gonna hack into their computers or something. So there's like little portions of this cybersecurity concern. The characters are all really interesting, and I think this was a win, and I definitely will continue to pick up Kimberly McCreight and get excited about her upcoming releases. I don't know of anything she's coming out with soon, but I will keep an eye out, and I think that The Outliers was the fluke because it is YA, and not that all YA is more simplistic, but I think Kimberly McCreight writing YA, she made it more simplistic. It's also the first book in a series, so that's a completely different experience to read, and it's going to include a different type of setup for the first book. So I'm excited that this first one was a win, and I'm excited to read the next one. It's another day. I am still feeling not great, but I'm gonna pretend that I feel fantastic, and I think that'll fix everything. I'm having another morning of eggs and avocados. It's very exciting. I know you love being updated on my breakfast, but this time I usually put sriracha mayo on my eggs, but I just bought spicy chili crisp, and I feel like this is gonna be life-changing for my avocado eggs. I did the pesto eggs recently, where you use pesto instead of butter or oil, and it wasn't great, but I also don't love pesto. Like, I'm fine with pesto. But I've been seeing this ingredient on TikTok so much recently, and it just sounds like something that I would love, and I'm gonna wanna put it on everything. And Liam is also home with me today. Oh my God. Yeah, this is exactly what I needed in my life. Him and I are gonna eat breakfast. Are you so happy for us? The book I'm reading now, you already saw the title card, it's How to Kill Your Best Friend by Lexi Elliott. I got a third of the way in last night. It's a quick read. I feel like I'm gonna wrap it up pretty quickly here just because I'm really interested to see what happens. The thing about Lexi Elliott is I don't think she has the most unique premises ever, but what she does is she really builds relationships, and she almost distracts you, or she distracts me from theorizing about things. Like, I don't know what happened to Lissa. I don't really care what happened to Lissa. I know that I'm gonna find out eventually, but right now I'm just so fascinated by the dynamics of this friendship group, because they grew up together, like swimming, not grew up, but they swim together, like competitively. And there was this scene where all of them are getting back together. Lissa is supposedly dead, and they go for a swim after her memorial as like a, I don't know, just like a moment to respect her in the water. And the way that she described like the relationship dynamics via how they swam together was so interesting, because like you swim in a certain formation and you're supposed to like follow the person in front of you based on like their bubbles, and it's about being aware of like who's lagging behind and like who sets the pace and like who is set up where in the triangle. And it was just really interesting, and I think gives some insight, or is meant to, into like their real life dynamics too. It's kind of the opposite of what I was saying yesterday though. Like this does seem to be, and Lexi Elliott seems to be an author who just guides you eventually to solve the mystery. I don't feel like there's a lot of red herrings. There's not a lot of theorizing by the characters of things that aren't going to matter later. Like everything is going to lead to the truth. And so in that way, it's not the most intriguing mystery overall, but because there are such interesting dynamics, that's what's keeping my attention. I can't imagine this being 5 stars, because right now in my life, the over-the-top, like ridiculous thrillers are more my vibe, but I think I'll still be able to appreciate by the end what this book is doing. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, that breakfast, that technically was lunchtime, calling it breakfast, it was fantastic and highly recommend. This, do I recommend? I don't know yet. I'm making good progress. Halfway through. I could probably tell you multiple things I'm liking and multiple things I'm not liking. So we have 2 characters in here. The main narrators are Georgie and Bronwyn, and they're definitely different. Like they have different things going on in their lives, but their like character voices, they're really similar. So I feel like sometimes in the middle of a chapter you can kind of forget who you're reading from. They're a little bit interchangeable, which I almost feel like ruins certain things if we're meant to believe that like one of them somehow is responsible for something. When books like don't really distinctly design these characters to sound totally different, that's when I feel like it's already off the table that either of them are going to be like responsible for something. But then I often wonder, like, what was the point of having these 2 main characters? Like we could have had 5 different POVs. There's so many people on this island. So obviously something important is going to happen like between them, or with one of them we're going to find out some kind of backstory. I don't know. So I'm not loving that for its distinguishability. Though I don't really remember, honestly, the POVs of her other books. I feel like there was only one person, but I could be mistaken. So if this is her first time doing dual POV, then like I can't really say that much about it. What I am liking is there's a little insertion of like mythology and supernatural stuff. And I want to like talk this through with you, because something that I've said multiple times before is I hate a book that pretends it's going to be paranormal and then isn't. However, that is my opinion when it comes to a very specific type of book. It's typically if it's a debut, or I've never read from that author before and I know that they have written like paranormal stuff in the past. So with this author, I picked up The French Girl. It was just a standard thriller. It didn't have any, from what I remember, like supernatural, even teaser things. Then when I picked up The Missing Years, it pitched itself as like it could be potentially horror vibes. Not in the actual synopsis of the book. It didn't, you know, put itself in the horror or paranormal category, but the overall vibe of the synopsis was like eerie things are happening around this manor, like dogs don't want to come near. So it gave the vibe that it was paranormal. But since I had read from that author before, and it didn't say anything about like, oh, this is her horror debut or paranormal debut, I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be supernatural or paranormal. And so my enjoyment of those little elements are fully knowing that it's not going to be that, but that the character thinks that there are paranormal things happening. So I loved that book, even though to some people it may sound like that's the type of book I'm talking about when it pretends it's paranormal and it's not. But it's not. It's a specific type of book that pretends to be paranormal. Sorry, I feel like I've just said the word paranormal 100 times. So this one too, I know is just a realistic thriller, but it is talking about how they think that there are like creatures in the water. There's this mythology. The locals think that Lissa died there because like maybe she's a sacrifice, and that's why they don't want to look too much into her death, because they don't want to take back the sacrifice. So it says like it's creepy and it's gothic, but nowhere does the publisher say this is paranormal or this is horror, so I know that it's not. And if it was, the publisher would for sure talk about that somewhere. So the same is true with Home Before Dark. Some people will be like, well, that's a book that pretended it was going to be horror and it wasn't. But to me, it didn't do that. Because of my history with Riley Sager, I went into that book knowing that it was going to be realistic, but like a little hint to horror stuff was fun to read and didn't frustrate me because I at no point thought it was going to be horror. Let me specify unrealistic horror, because I think that book could still be classified as horror in some realms. So that's what's fun about this, is like they think maybe there's some type of creature. I love the setting of this. The atmosphere is great. It's like raining on this island. They all have little individual villas. Some of the people are getting little notes like on their mirror, like saying, I know you did it, or like that kind of vibe. It's a lot of internal kind of thinking and like, I hope no one finds out about this, or like, I wonder if this person is telling the truth. At this point, I would call it much more of a mystery than a thriller, but I'm excited to finish it up. Am I going to sit up and pretend to be professional for this final clip of this book? No. I just took my trusty Tylenol cold and sinus, and I just need to be lying down and I need to be asleep in the next 5 minutes. This felt like a slow book. I also didn't feel a lot of motivation to read, but I still somehow finished it in 24 hours. Oh, I guess it's only 300 pages. Oh boy, I don't know how to rate this one. I think it has to be in between my two experiences with Lexi Elliott so far. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5, I think. She so interestingly builds like such a slow narrative, and I enjoy it because I like a tense, dramatic friendship story already. But there's so much like drama that sometimes her twists or reveals just feel a little like too much. When I say I like an over-the-top thriller, what I usually mean is that a lot of stuff happens. So there's a reveal and then another reveal and another reveal, and it all just like gets too crazy. Too crazy for the average person, but fun for me. In Lexi Elliott's, like, there's usually some just like out of left field reveal, and it just often feels a little like, oh gosh, whiplash, because the book was so mundane. But I really liked learning about the characters. I enjoyed the mystery. I think there were too many like side characters or just names that were mentioned that weren't going to mean anything, because I didn't know who I was supposed to like pay attention to and care about. And I honestly didn't see like the big reveal coming, but I feel like if you did, you're probably not gonna like this book very much. I just looked on the Goodreads and this book seems to have every single rating. 1 star, 5 stars, like they're all pretty common, but it is her lowest averagely rated book so far. And I just saw that she does have an upcoming book. So with Kimberly McCreight, I don't think there's anything scheduled for her that we know of yet. I'm sure we'll get like an announcement soon, just because she comes out with something like every other year, it seems. With Lexi Elliott, her first book came out in 2018, got one in 2019, and this was her 2021. And now there's one that says 2022, and it's called Bright and Deadly Things. A remote back to basics mountaintop retreat in the French Alps. I already want to read it. Turns deadly as a widowed Oxford fellow finds herself in the crosshairs of her late husband's dangerous secrets. I'm adding that. I don't think I see Lexi Elliott as a Literally Dead Book Club contender. I don't know why I feel like that's something that is a good marker of a successful thriller for me. But like, would this make for a good discussion? Maybe. But a lively discussion? Probably not. I'm gonna take a couple days off to do some other things, and then I'll come back, hopefully feeling a little better, for my third and final read. Today, I'm reading the final book. I'm gonna get some fresh air. Liam, my son, is starting baseball soon. So we're gonna go play some baseball, and fresh air seems like a good idea for my health, mental health, physical health. Healthy health. Oh my god, that bug was in here yesterday when I was driving.
It's dead now.
Poor bug. I think I'm like 10% in, and I'm really intrigued. Normally I feel like I'll have to look back on some vlogs, but I feel like I'm not interested in Lisa Jewell from the very beginning. Like, it doesn't captivate me, but people tell me there's such good twists that that's why I keep reading. But this one I'm intrigued right away. So we'll go play, watch some B-roll, and then I'll tell you what it's about.
Oh, go. There you go. Oh, he's ready. Hey, you were on the right path. Love up. Okay, I'll go back here. Maybe I won't hit one you in the head. Oh, good one.
Oh look, it's another clip in the kitchen. Does it get more interesting than this? This time you're angled so far you can actually see in my dirty sink. Like, lucky you. I really just want to kick this cold. I'm so tired of being sick. I have been sick 3 times over the last month. It's not even about feeling terrible. It's more about vlogging. Like, I hate vlogging when I sound worse in my head, I know, but I'm just so stuffed up and it's just such a bummer. And I could always update you later when I'm feeling better, but it seems when I'm reading mystery thriller type books, I want to update you in the moment, like when things are actually happening. I don't want to wait and potentially forget about what I want to talk about. So I am a quarter of the way through the night she disappeared. So I want to tell you like what's going on so far and the vibes. I just saw a couple pages from now, I have a part 2 coming, and I'm just so curious, like, are we gonna jump timelines? What's gonna happen? So while I make food for myself, we're doing some spring cleaning. The boys are out. They're like selling some things and dropping off a lot of donations. I filled the vehicle with so much stuff and I was like, figure it out. While they're gone, I'm gonna make myself some food. I found this weird pasta I've never seen before. It's called arcobaleno, and it looks like little, you know what it looks like? It looks like stamps, you know, wax seals. That's what this looks like. And then somebody said that bringing it back to the spicy chili crisp, that you can just mix this into pasta. Please don't make fun of how I say pasta. And it's just like a whole sauce on its own, and I thought that was such a good idea. I have never had anything like it, so I can't compare it to anything, but it smells like, and it has the oil that gives me the vibes of sun-dried tomatoes, but like it's crunchy and spicy. So that's what I'm up to down here. I'm boiling water. It has started boiling. Oh, too many. So here's what's up with this. We're following a woman who has a daughter and her boyfriend. They're like 19 and they go missing. Hold on, let me pick up my pasta. They go missing after a night out and she's left with the baby. They never return and now she's trying to figure out where they are. She goes to this girl's house that supposedly was with them the night before, and it's like this huge manor, and she's like this rich bitch, and her family like doesn't really care that these people are missing, even though the last place they were seen was at her house. Then in another timeline, like a year and a half later, we're following this woman who lives right near that manor. She's like living on campus with her husband or boyfriend who's a teacher. I haven't picked this back up today, so now I'm forgetting things that I read yesterday. And it backs onto a forest. On the other side of the forest is that manor. And nowadays, nobody lives in that manor, and it's seen as like this abandoned mansion. And she goes into the woods one day and she sees a sign that says dig here. And that's pretty much where I'm at. A lot of setup, a lot of intrigue. Like, I really truly am interested. We're also getting little snippets of Tallulah, the girl who's missing, and Zach. Mostly like Tallulah, the first time she met that girl in that manor, because they went to school together. But we're getting just brief moments of their like friendship that doesn't really seem like a friendship. And yeah, no real reveals. I don't know how anything's gonna be connected. I have no theories, but I'm gonna check in with you like when I start part 2, and then I think there's a part 3. I don't think there's a part 4. And yeah, I'll let you know how it's going. Okay, I have an update on my dinner, but not on my book. I haven't read anything. I was gonna tell you that it was delicious, but it weirdly tasted like fish. And I was wondering if it was like the texture of the pasta itself that just kind of felt like you were eating like oysters or mussels or something, in addition with like the salted water. And then I was like, let me go look at the package just to see. And I was like, oh cool, red beet, carrots, tomato, spinach. Like, it's made out of a bunch of vegetables. And then it says cuttlefish ink. Cuttlefish ink? I'm guessing that's why there's darker ones and how they made the darker ones. Like, those are related to the colors of the pasta. And it makes sense. I've just never heard of cuttlefish ink. Like squid ink, sure. This is probably like the cheaper version. But yeah, I think that flavor kind of got into everything and it tasted like a seafood dish, Well, it was a seafood dish, I guess, technically. But anyway, the cheese was not the right choice. Like, it was fine. It tasted, I would actually say it tasted good. If I had to rate it, I'd give it 3.5 stars. There needed to be a vegetable in there. This was like my first experience with this, using that as a sauce, which is a good idea. And with that pasta, I don't think they meshed together perfectly, but the cheese on top was not the move because it's like fishy. It definitely needed a vegetable in it to freshen up. And I knew that, but I just wanted like to navigate the flavors first. I'm talking too much about this and not the book. I'm a cooking channel now, even though I didn't show you any cooking. If I were to make it again, I would do it with like asparagus, broccoli, and I would make it like a seafood dish if I wasn't allergic to shellfish. I do like crab or shrimp or whatever people eat. Overall, it was as good as I expected. Well, I'll come back and talk about the book next time I see you. I'll be talking about a book. I am now 250 pages in of almost 400. I'm just getting ready to film some things. I don't know how to talk about thrillers. Like, how do you review a thriller as you're reading a thriller? Because I feel like I'm just gonna give everything away. Here's what I'll say about Lisa Jewell. She really knows how to end a chapter. Every single chapter ends with something like very good, an ominous phrase, a little reveal, and it's just very good. So this reveal right here tied to something like from the very beginning, first couple chapters of the book. So I can say what I do appreciate about her writing is that she knows how to like set things up, drag things out. The timing of her reveals feel very intentional, and just learning like what something was referencing way earlier in the book is cool, because it's not like we're learning about all of the reveals in the last 20 pages. So I definitely appreciate that. I would say I'm enjoying the book, but I doubt there's anything that's going to be super shocking by the end. And that's not to say I think I can predict everything that's going to go down. I really don't know. There are two kind of mysteries at this point. One of them I think I figured out. One of them, no matter what the result is of the other one, I think I'll feel the same about it. Like, it's a fine plot point of a thriller, regardless of which direction we go. So it's not like the most exciting, you know, it's not one of those over-the-top convoluted plots that I like. She writes slower mysteries. And I wouldn't say there's necessarily red herrings, which I often enjoy. It's just you are getting, you know, the little clues to follow as if we're going through the forest. We're picking up different things. This is the type of book that like you could make a video around maybe. I've seen some videos. I haven't watched any of them because I'm not interested enough in people's theories about mystery books, but I've seen people do videos where like they will stop a book at a certain point, or there's like an unsolved mystery in a mystery book and they will try to solve the mystery themselves and put all the clues together. This is the type of book that you could do that. I feel like you could figure out everything that's happening if you really tried, and I like that. We've definitely learned about more relationships between all of these family members and lovers, and as usual, not everything is as it seems from the outside. There's definitely some relationships that I'm intrigued by, and I'm just continually feeling so bad for Kim because she's so tired. Like, she has 2 grown children, she didn't want to have another child, and now she has another child. And while she's already grieving her missing daughter, she like has to care for this baby, and nobody's really helping her. And the parents of her daughter's boyfriend, Zach, are just like, ugh. I don't think this is gonna be a 5. I don't think there's anything it could do at this point to be a 5, honestly, but I'm having a good time. And I don't know if the next time I'll check in with you I'll finish it. I'm only like 60% of the way through, and I feel like it could wrap up, so I don't know if I'm gonna get bored in the last third, so we'll see. Okay, I finished it, and I haven't thought through like my review, but I do have a gut feeling about the rating right off the bat, and I feel like it's a 4, which is so interesting because the point of this video is, will I read from this author again? And I won't, even though it was a 4. And I don't know if that seems weird to people, like if this needs an explanation, but I just don't foresee Lisa Jewell ever getting a 5. And I feel like I would rather risk it with a new author and the potential to either have a 1 star from them or a 5 star than to go with an author that I just don't think meshes with me and my taste, even though I'm giving this a 4. And obviously I've given her a 4 before, and I looked back on that review and I was saying like, I don't really like the slowness of this mystery, but I put aside my own preferences for this like objective rating of a 4 once I just got used to the fact that I knew it was going to be slow, and I forced myself to appreciate that, and I gave it a 4. And I feel similarly about this. I definitely was interested in the beginning. There was probably 200 pages though that I was like, yeah, okay, like okay. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing bad. It was just slow. Little tiny reveals sprinkled in, which, like I said, appreciate it. But I just need some more excitement, and I really do like to be lied to. Like, I want the author to trick me. I want the author to play with my emotions, not just tug on them. All of her books are intense, and they tell important stories, and they tug on your heartstrings. And the ending of this was so good, and I feel like I understand why this has a high rating, because it just did some really kind of unexpectedly respectful things. The cover though doesn't really match the book. In fact, all of Lisa Jewell's covers are so boring to me, and they just don't really depict the story, but they do kind of give off the like a little bit, I don't want to say dull, but they give off a more basic kind of vibe, so I guess that's okay. This is a thriller that I feel comfortable recommending to so many people. I feel like a lot can enjoy this, and I get it. I really get it. That's it. Final thoughts. This was a pretty uninteresting vlog in my opinion, but that's okay. Will I pick up more Lisa Jewell? I don't think so, unless there's a premise that is like my perfect premise. Kimberly McCreight, will pick up another one. Lexi Elliott, I don't know. I'm gonna keep my eye out and see. I had a good time. Definitely, I'm in the thriller moment in my life. I want to read more mysteries and thrillers, and this was a good situation for me. Familiar authors, I had a good time. I hope you had a good time, and I will see you later. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if there's any thrillers you would recommend to me to read next that I haven't read yet. Bye!